I was just thinking about like culture, obviously what this YouTube channel is about. And, you know, I was just thinking about my rant and rave about, let me not go down that avenue. What I want to talk about is like, you know how people are like, oh, you need to just be more feminine. You need to just be more feminine, right? And like, you don't oppose the idea. Like, it's not, you know, I think every woman, like rightfully so, would love to just kind of like relax, like, you know, like just relax. Like, I think that every woman would love that, but like, I think it's unfortunate in current culture that we don't consider any other factors, especially in the Black community. Like, we don't consider any other factors why we are single right now, why we are divided right now. Like, first of all, I think that we could definitely take a look at the entertainment industry. I think we can take a look at the you know, messages that are currently being pushed. But more specifically, I think we should really take a look at the economy. I think that we should really take a look at the economy and realize what it has done to our community and what it has continues to do to our community. I think one thing that really bothers me is how, like, first of all, being on social media right now, everything is like so fake. Like, everything is so fake. And like, I'm not saying fake like, oh my gosh, like, you know, just a very common narrative. I mean like real life. Like, everyone is just kind of doing stuff for profit. It's like, if you ain't really trying to get a lot of attention, if you're not really an attention person, you know, like, it just, I don't know, there's just a lot of things up there. Like, I feel like genuinely to be on social media and to have it be like a very lucrative thing is like really kind of like to front, to fake, or to just really embarrass yourself and make a fool out of yourself to essentially just be like, to get that attention. And I'm not saying that's for everyone, but yeah, there's a huge correlation there. I was talking to my aunt about this, and we were just talking about like business and how when it comes to business, okay, you buy the profit, you made all of that profit, now you got to go back and buy more profit, and now you're at like zero because people are not buying in the same amount, right? So the thing would be, okay, let me buy less product, but then it's like when people are reaching out to you and you don't have the product, then that kind of like kills the business reputation, right? So it's just like, it's just kind of crazy just to kind of see, like, hear so many people talk about business and entrepreneurship, but they're not really sharing what is the missing link. You know, what is the missing link? Like, what is it that people are not telling you? Because there's no way it can be this simple. And I think that's one thing that I'm just kind of learning from my own implementations of social media advice and business advice and things that I've learned, quote unquote, on the internet, is that it really kind of gives a very simple formula for everything in life, and life is so much more complex. I think it's even in the way in which we handle one another. So back to my whole thing about like relationships within the Black community, just kind of realizing how not only has white culture completely snuffed and infiltrated the Black community, like entirely, I think that there are just so many factors that really play into marriage rates. And I think one of those biggest things is like I was going to say liability, but I'm going to touch on that in just a second. The biggest thing really is the economy. Like, I feel like right now, women aren't saying, oh, we never wanted men. We always thought men were da-da-da-da-da, this negative thing. I don't think that's ever been a thing. Because quite frankly, I think if we look at numbers, if we even look at our own lives, we were partnered, like, prior to this current era. I think what's so unfortunate about social media, though, I gotta honestly say, is that it really takes away from the realism of life, you know? And like, you don't really have to like deal with reality with social media, because I think that social media just has a very interesting way of distracting you continuously. So I was thinking about you know, people talk about like saving, right? And saving is one of those things where I think it's the common advice people give to the poor. And so you have people who save money, but then you realize that these people are very unhappy. You know why? Because it's like, to live, what type of quality of life do you have? Oh, look at that Fiat. It's like my brain be like, squirrel. But this is a very serious topic, so let me stay focused. I just didn't see a red Fiat before. I thought that was so cool. But yeah, people like, just save your money. But like, what type of quality of life do you have when it's like you deprive yourself of all the joys and all the pleasures in the world? And I remember, you know, someone was telling me like, I'm just depressed, I'm not happy. But they had the financial stability, they had the means, they had a full-time job, they saved a lot of money, they really didn't buy much. And I'm not saying you have to indulge, but like, I feel like the people who give advice to the poor are those who are privileged. Like, let's really think about this for a second. People who are typically on social media, who have mass platforms, who give advice to other people, are typically privileged. And when we take advice from them, it's like, not only are we doing ourselves a disservice, but it's like, if a person has had privilege, how can they speak to your situation when they've never had to do it that way? You know, and I think that that's what really sucks about it, is like, you know, it's admirable. Their success is admirable. We love it. Like, you know, nobody's hating. But it's just like, it just really sucks, because it's like, you try to find yourself in a situation where you're trying to get out of your situation, and you go to people who've been, you know, but it's like the advice they're giving you is not applicable to you, and they can't possibly speak to that because they ain't never been through it. And that's why I do like Steve Harvey. I feel like when I was really like on my motivational speaker tip, I really tapped into Steve Harvey. I was really resonating with his words, because it was like, he came from nothing, and his whole thing is like God, right? It's never, oh, save your money, you know, this very like bullcrap advice that doesn't work. And so I was talking about post-pandemic, where we were post-pandemic, and just how, you know, I'm reading this book right now. It's so good. It just talks about during the pandemic, when people got their stimulus checks, a lot of people actually got out of poverty. I was even thinking about myself. I was in a relationship at the time. My partner was doing very well financially. Like, it really wasn't like, you know, obviously things weren't as expensive. On top of getting the stimulus checks, like, you know, he was able to start his business. We were able to take a vacation. Like, it just really shifted everything. And then it was like, when it all came back down to it, it was like, once they kind of cut the aid and raised the price, the funding, and like raised the prices, we were back down to zero. And I was just thinking about today, like, you know, getting ready for work, just finished, you know, going for a run, making sure I make myself some lunch, you know, regular. But, you know, I was like, wow, like, I really have a lot of ideas right now. I would love to like sit and write, but it's like, I'm on my way to work. And I noticed that everybody who has this advice about, you know, what poor people should do and all this other stuff, they never had to live it. You know, I was on my run thinking about it today, because, you know, I kind of critiqued the Joe Mixon situation. But, like, I was just so upset, because I'm like, man, you have so many people who just in positions, and, like, I'm not here to say they don't deserve it, but it's just like, it's one of those things where, like, you just have so many people, like, want to be so hard, you know? And you know why they want to take these stories, like, they got it out the mud, and not just men, women too. You know, people want to take the hustle and take the glory from the story, gentrification, cultural appropriation, the whole nine. You know why? Because it's like, they know good and well that people who really at the bottom working hard deserve way more respect than they're getting. And it's like, it's kind of like some colonization type stuff. Like, you know, like, how you gonna take somebody else's story for your glory? Well, you know, that ain't never been your life. And I can tell, because it's like, people who've been through stuff, when you at the bottom and like God finally bless you, you don't move like that. You don't act like that. You don't move like that. You know what I mean? Like, because you really had to like really get it out the mud. But most people never had to do that. And here's what I've learned, like, and it's not a bad thing. I'm not here critiquing anybody who's been privileged. Like, that's completely fine. But you know, we all have privileges, right? Like, I've had my privileges, you know. So I forgot my Apple Watch. I'm not critiquing anybody for being privileged, but what I am critiquing is like the fakeness of it. Like, I'm so sick and tired of people really fronting, like, you know, like they not like they like someone didn't really show up for them. And like, I critique athletes, because I feel like that's a very common narrative, not for everybody, but for a lot of the athletes, because I just feel like people be so quick, and it's rappers too. It's really just men in general. Like, I think a lot of black men especially, they really want to kind of take this hard pressed story. And I think, again, like I said, it's because you know that, you know, the people who really live in it and who really had to live it, they deserve way more respect. But guess what they're getting? They're getting told that they're not worthy of love. They're getting told that, you know, they too much of this, they too much of that. They're getting called a Pookie and a Ray Ray. But you over here the whole time getting all the respect, all the money, the accolades. And I'm not even talking about athletes. I'm talking about rappers. I'm talking about a lot of people who really push this narrative like they really had to get it out the mud, when the realism that is that anybody who has a little bit of something, somebody sacrificed for them to be there. Whether it be your parents, whether it be, you know, and like, I think about successful men, and not just like critiquing men. This is not a man bashing video. I'm just like saying in general. I can touch on women too, and you know, I'll just keep it neutral because it's all y'all. But I was just thinking about like successful men, and how so many successful men, their mothers, and like, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, I really feel like the only people who have unconditional love is men. Like, that's it. Like, people say women, no, Like, men are the only people who get men and children are the only people who get unconditional love from women. The way men's mothers ride for them, the way men's girlfriends, wives ride for them, bro, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy. You know, and like, I'm not saying it like a bad thing. I'm not here to point the finger. I'm just saying, like, it's not the same for women. Like, when I look up, I don't see nobody taking care of women. I don't see nobody looking out for older siblings and women and girls. Like, I don't see that. I don't see that. It looks that way on social media, right? It looks that way on social media. And I'm not saying that there aren't opportunities for women in business. Like, please spare me. I'm talking about real life. Also think too, what is so unfortunate about these conversations that I've been trying to have with people is, like, because people are, like, the people who get the microphones are the privileged folks, they never really had to live it. So they always want to try to combat these type of conversations like, oh no, women do got all these opportunities based on things they seen on social media. Like, who do you know? Who's taking care of your mother? Who's taking care of your mother? Who? Where they at? Because I know that that's very unlikely. I know that it's very unlikely. And like, I'm not saying that women are men, or I'm not putting it like, please, listen, this is way too complex. This conversation is way too complex, way too critical. It's just too much analysis to be on the surface level thinking I'm talking about a gender war. Like, I'm real life. And so, you know, like, I just think that that's a real thing. And you know, it's just very unfortunate. And yeah, that's just real life. You know, women have to take care of themselves. Like, I don't see nobody out here, like, looking out for women, making sure women is straight. Like, no, men will ride the back of a woman, you know what I mean? And maybe toss her to the side, maybe not give her any, you know, and I'm not talking about, and listen, this is the thing too that really pisses me off. And that's why I was saying with the thing with Joe Mixon, I was so upset about it, because it was so much, to me, I just feel like it was so much bigger than just this little minor situation. I mean, obviously he's not the only, you know, athlete or a person of affluence who's, you know, made mistakes or done things or whatever. It's just more so just like, man, you know, working in a community center with the kids, and it's like they look up to these guys, and it's like, man, you have people in position who just don't deserve to be there. Like, you know, and then it's like you wonder why we stuck and why we just be like, you know, because it's like you get people like, you know, Boosie, like, you know, and I'm not even, and here's the thing, this is not to critique Boosie. I'm just saying, like, you get people, we give so much in our community. Yes, this is us being accountable. We put so many people on a pedestal. We give so many people the opportunity to be the spokesperson for black people. And I say us because it's like, who else is supporting this? Who else is this? I mean, don't get me wrong. We know that white kids from suburbia absolutely love rap and they love entertainment, and everybody in America really gets down with black people. Like, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, like, who we make a star. Like, I even think about the new female rappers, like how they completely missed the mark. Like, we went from MC Lyte, Queen Latifah, like, you know, music being one of those things, especially for women, where it was something that was empowering. So you have these young girls who literally get on social media, calling the girls who drive Hondas broke, calling the girls who work 9 to 5 broke. Like, why do y'all support this? I don't understand it. And so anyway, it was so much bigger than that for me, because it's like, you know, we be stuck in these cycles. Like, in our community, we be stuck in these cycles, and it's like, these are the role models, and it's like, it just pisses you off, because it's like, man, there's so many people who could just, you know, so many other boys that didn't get selected, who probably had the character, who probably just way more deserving. And I just be so upset when I see people and they don't get it, and it's like they don't have that humility, and they don't carry themselves with the level of responsibility, you know, and then it kind of just all falls back on us, you know, like, because we're in the classrooms, we're dealing with the kids, we're having a, you know, and I'm not saying in a very myopic, like, oh, it falls back on us. No, I'm saying that this is the type of stuff that influences the youth, and it's like, you're not dealing with it every day. And that brings me to my whole point about, I'm so tired of these tough girl stories. You never got it out the mud. Look how you acted. You're very privileged. Like, and it's okay. That's okay. Nobody's faulting you. Nobody's saying you don't work hard. I'm just saying, I'm just so tired of people, you know what I mean, really fronting like they really had to live through certain things, and they just didn't, you know. And I just, you know, you just have so much, it's just a completely different perspective, I just think, when you're starting from the bottom, and, like, you know, you're really working and you're really kind of opening your eyes. I also think for myself too, I'm always going to come from a different perspective, because I read a lot. So, you know, I'm different. You know, if you like the video, great. You know, if you get what I'm saying, great. You're not going to be able to take a little snippet of this. You're going to have to really think about this. You're going to have to really sit and digest this. You're probably going to have to follow up with a little bit of literature research and your own personal critical analysis. You're not about to be able to watch this video and just kind of have an opinion and be like, oh my God, like, because it's so much more than that. And I think it's unfortunate in social media because it's like people think that there's so many opportunities. No, there's so many ads. There are so many ads. Like, so many ads, man. I'm telling you, like, it's not as simple as it looks, and it's like, yeah, everybody got a course, but it's like, what are they not telling you, right? We all got videos, we all got supposed resources. Okay, that's fine, but what are they not telling you, though? That's the thing, like, because that's what's missing. Like, you know what I mean? That's what's missing. That's the missing link. And I feel like, that's just very unfortunate, because it's like we just kind of live in a world where it's just like the realism of it, you know what I mean? It's like, what are they not telling you? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we got supposed opportunities, yeah, all these different things. And so back to what I was saying about, women being told that they just need to be more feminine or whatever the case may be. Like, I just think it's just so much bigger than that. I was even thinking for myself, like, yo, if this was it, there would be no way for you to have children. It's not that you don't want to have children, but it's like, when have you ever, and I'm not saying this is on men, I'm just saying like real life, because again, I think that sometimes I have to come on here and dial it back for you guys, because I feel like people are just so delusional these days, and that's fine. Do what you want to do. But but I was saying that, with women, like, when have you really met a guy who was like, okay, I'm going to be here for you, I'm going to take care of you, I'm going to do all these different things? You haven't. Not one that you probably found, you know what I mean, like, you could really get along with, like, because the real world is like in real life is hard. And then you think about some people who remain single or whatever, guys who, did possibly make it out, got the degrees or whatever the case may be, women too. It's like, if you are, realistic, real time, it's like, okay, for you, marriage might become one of those things where it's like, this is such a liability for me, because it's like, if I lose everything, how am I going to take care of myself, right? So then it kind of just becomes like a survivalist type of thing. And I feel like being where we are, and we also know that in the real world, if a man doesn't have money, I don't really, you know what I mean? And I'm saying not even just like on a superficial, like, if he doesn't have money, I'm saying like, if a man doesn't work, he's probably not gonna eat. So it's like, for him, he probably is like, look, this is such a huge liability. I'm not saying that, because obviously we know men are getting married. So I'm just, please, I need you to think. Okay, I need you to think here. I don't have time to sit here and explain everything. Okay, I don't have time for that. Okay, but I'm just connecting the dots, doing what I do, and I'm just trying to like let people know that, like, you can fine tune it, you can do all those different things, and I'm not saying it's not going to be to your benefit. I think it's going to be a very beautiful thing. You're going to look up, you're going to be happy, hey, you do you. But I'm just saying that there's so many factors that really go into things, and like, if we're really being honest, man, like, nails, hair, all this stuff is getting so expensive. So it's like, if this is becoming the standard and this is not becoming the standard, or this is becoming the whatever, then we're in trouble, because it's like, who can afford that? Like, bro, I was just even thinking to myself, like, I told myself I was going to treat myself. It's my birthday. The amount of money that I just spent on my hair, for my nails, and I'm going to do the lashes. I'm like, I'm never doing this again. This is crazy, because it's like, in the real world, on my salary as a single woman, this does not make sense. This is crazy. You know what I mean? And it's like, when you sit with that, people want to be like, oh, and I think anybody who really kind of combats that with like, oh, it's just a matter of thinking, or you should start a business. Again, with the whole business thing, if you don't have a certain amount of capital, it's, I don't know. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that there's a lot that is missing that people aren't telling you. And I think absolutely you should try with content creation, but even in that, you're gonna have to show the girls that you have a little bit more than them. Kim Foster was talking about this, like, people typically are only going to follow you if you do appear to have something that they don't have. People want, you know what I mean? So it's like, if you're not willing to invest and like do certain things, then it's probably slow, bro. It's slow. Like, that's an investment in itself. And I'm not saying don't take a chance. I'm just saying, like, in the real world, in reality, in real time, this is so much bigger than a 3-step formula. This is so much bigger than like a 1-step thing. It's a completely different thing. And don't be not degreed, because that's going to play a role. And like, I feel like what really sucks is like, you just can never have these conversations in real life with people, because people always assume that like you're being, no, I'm gonna still keep trying. I'm still going to keep trying, but I'm just creating a space for anybody who was wondering like what is really going on, because I love reading, and I love sharing that with other people. And like, it's so much bigger than us. Like, the problems that we're having in the Black community is so much bigger than us. It is slightly prehistoric, but it's so much bigger than us. It's so much bigger than just, oh, you're spending your money on sneakers. Babe, a pair of sneakers is like $100. Rent A house, not rent, a house. You're never gonna save that on that salary, on minimum wage salary. You're never about to save that. I'm sorry, you're just not. And the thing is, like, even if you do save it and you say you deprive yourself of so much, you're gonna look up, you're gonna be so miserable. It's not a matter of discipline. It's really not. You're gonna be freaking miserable because it's like you're saving all your money and everything for a better future. I've seen people do this. This is a very miserable tactic. They deprive themselves of much. They're either like super selfish or they get it and then they're old as crap. They're old as dirt. Can't even walk, can't even move. You know what I mean? And even still, it's like, was it really worth it? I don't know. You know, that's something for you to decide, you know. But all these people who try to give advice to the poor people are privileged people, and you just shouldn't listen to them. And I'm not saying that white people can't give advice. Like, I don't even think this is solely about race, but on average, a black household makes $67,000 and a white household makes $188,000. Even white people being poor is still a lot more resources versus a black person being poor. So I feel like sometimes, because right now the trendiest thing is like relationship and being relatable and being so progressive as a society, that I do feel like sometimes, you know, it's easy to just kind of join in on the conversation. It's easy to kind of front and fake again, like I was just saying about everybody else trying to be hard. It's easy to kind of talk about how you're not privileged when you're very much privileged. And I think that that's probably one of the things about being a white person that's very unfortunate. It's just something that's like, it must suck, but like not that bad, because it's like you do have privilege, but it must suck because it's like, you know, I'm paid more, I want to be relatable, but I'm just like, I'm valued in society because of the way I look. I'll probably always make more, even though we are way past the trust fund babies. Like, I definitely feel like, you know, we're kind of past the trust fund babies. Like, I feel like a lot of young white people today are very much poor, and I'm not here to, you know, but I'm just saying, like, there will always be way more opportunities, way more resources. You know, you can get a credit card that's gonna, you know what I mean? Like, they're just, and I'm not saying black people can't get credit, obviously, but I'm just saying, like, you can probably get a little bit more. You can get a mortgage with a little bit lesser of an interest rate. Like, there are just so many different things. On top of that, you know what, that's a whole nother, that going into white culture is a whole nother category that I don't have time for. So we're going to talk about that another day. But I'm not, you know, I'm not bashing white people, but I mean, just like genuinely on average, like, they have a way better chance at this whole like getting out of poverty thing. Also, you know, white people are not based, their clothing isn't political. So, you know, for them it's completely different. Say what you want. You cannot be a black girl walking up in certain spaces with that hair, with those nails, or even if you get rid of the hair and the nails and don't do nothing extra, like looking like this, is like, okay, it's cool, but like, you know, you really need to look the part. Same thing with the black man. And there's nothing wrong with being a stand-up and taking care of yourself and like putting yourself together. That's absolutely fine. But the point of the moral of the story is that there's a whole lot that goes into this, and it's just, you know, it's just, I just really could have stopped where I was with the whole income. I just kind of was thinking about all the different cultural differences and the different barriers and the, you know, appearance factor, and just how there's a lot more there. But that was very much irrelevant. I didn't even have to go down that rabbit hole. My point is, white people make more than black people, even if they're poor. So I just, you know, we're all in this together. You know, this great book by Matthew Desmond, he's a white man, trust me, I'm not racist, but I do think that yeah, it's very unfortunate. I think we can just leave it there. It's a very unfortunate thing. I think another thing that's super unfortunate about like speaking truth and like, you know, anything like that, most people don't want to hear it because people want to be entertained. You know, people want to laugh. Nobody really, you know, I think when I first started, you know, studying culture and history and, you know, so forth, I was very depressed. You know, I was very depressed because it's like, wow. You know, so I get it. I do think that, you know, these conversations are only for, you know, people who, you know, fit into that space. I don't think that they're for everybody. Like, not everybody is going to be able to, you know, handle such a portion of meat. You know, some people, you know, bite size, you know, fruit snacks, you know, and I think that's what you have on Instagram. And so, yeah, if you're just wondering about some things, then there are some answers for you. So have a great day.